Yeah, hi. Good evening, everyone. Great to see everyone here. Actually, there's a lot of pressure on me in case of Manish because a lot of characters in this book I know personally, and a lot of people who are sitting here I know personally, which is also good and bad. So, but before we start, I think what Manish and I want to do is just have a moment of silence for the tragedy that happened at Pelgaon. So I will request everybody for a minute of silence to pay our respect. Okay, thank you everyone. While that's in the background, the exciting stuff is that Manish I know for many years. He's like a older brother. I look up to him, and his journey has been incredible so far. And by the way, nowhere close to finish because I know he's working on some very exciting stuff even now, and he inspires me every day. Also, as it might have it, we both come from a very small town called Gohana, which is in between Rohtak and Panipat. And I didn't know this till about a year back when his last name clicked, which was Vij. And my mom always used to talk about his chacha, who was Vij, in this small town, Gohana. So from that small town to amazing beginnings.
We call each other the Gohana Bros.
And the good is very famous from there, by the way. So Manish, I think first question I have for you, some of the questions I've told him what I'll ask him and some are surprise. So what inspired you to write this book? Because everybody I think have this desire. And by the way, Harish Bahl, who is his long-term partner, as a background, I called him up and I said, did you know about Manish writing this book? And Harish is if you guys don't know him, he's a baller of a different degree. Very kind of complementary to what Manish is. And he said, look, one thing I know about Manish, he gets things done. A lot of us want to write book, but you did it. So what inspired you?
First of all, thank you very much for taking out time. I think everyone's time is very precious. I hope by the end of this talk, you all will probably enjoy, and we try and make your time worthy of whatever chat we'll have today. Tej, the purpose. Whenever there is the clarity of purpose for anything in life comes and hits you, things start to happen. For a long time, I'm actually a product of being the right time at right place. I'm sitting here. I have a lot of gratitude for the fact that a lot of people work hard. A lot of people get a lot of support, but at some point of time, we are a product of being right time, right place. And a lot of degrees of my direction got changed because I could learn from a lot of experiences of people, of guidance that I got. And therefore, somewhere I was actually sitting somewhere in hills. आप जब पहाड़ों में जाते हो ना तो आपको ये आता है बड़े you romanticize things कि अब मैं यहाँ आया करूँगा, यहाँ विला खरीदूँगा, यहाँ मैं तो I was sitting. We go to this very our favorite place called Rak, and I was sitting there and I said, it is somewhere, if I am the product of being right time, right place, and some power, some spiritual power has put me there, it is my duty now to give it back in some way. And I realized that things that we have gone through, and we've got so many opportunities of learnings and mistakes and experiences. If I could give it back to myself 25 years back, or people in that age, or somewhere who is starting to become an entrepreneur or want to build an entrepreneurial mindset, or is an entrepreneur, and maybe it helps change even a degree of his life, with all the experiences that I have or mistakes that I could write, then I think it is my duty to do that. And it was 25 years since I was in this industry. So I thought, what better way to kind of write a book and give it back to the society. That was really the purpose of doing it.
That's amazing. And how long it took you to write a book?
From the day I decided that I want to do that, I think it took me give or take about 15 months since the book actually, since the day, on the day I smelled the book, when it came, the first set of books that actually came, it was about 15 months.
Sorry, I have to ask these questions as a VC, efficiency and all that. So by the way, one thing about Manish, he started internet businesses mostly, or tech-led businesses, very early on, in 2000, 2001. And I think there was somewhere his dad was an inspiration who gave him the idea of the first business. Yeah. It was kind of unrelated, but related to tech. But just to kind of put in perspective, people struggle to do one startup. Manish has done 8 startups. First one was Kabaddi Bazaar. I just want to mention it because it's important for people to know. I think Kabaddi Bazaar will do very good now as compared to what it was. Yeah. Then the other one was a call center business. Then Kusar. Then Tairu. Then SVG. And Let's Buy. And Amar is here. I mean, so, and then now he runs a venture studio. We'll talk about that later. But out of this, going back to your college days, Manish, and the call from your dad, I think was the starting point. And I'll do a little bit of reading of the book on that. But while I get to that page, you can talk about, what sort of inspired you from your dad's conversation that day.
So, a lot of us come from middle-class families, and every penny or every opportunity to earn becomes very important in families. It incrementally increases your lifestyle. And I remember my father is in the textile industry, and I was in college, and he called me once. I was in a hostel in Indore. He called me once. There is this factory in Nepal, and they want to sell their yarns in India. And you are in Indore, and Indore consumes a lot of yarns. Why don't you start a yarn trading business and go to these companies in Indore and Ludhiana, and they can probably buy this yarn. And at that point, I did my calculation, and I said, here, I used to get like 1,200 or 1,500 rupees per month as my pocket money. And I negotiated with my dad कि यार मेरी pocket money अगर 2,000 हो जाएगी ना तो मैं ये काम करने को तैयार हूँ. And that actually became honestly the first business that I did. I used to sit in the STD PCO booth और वहाँ से फ़ोन करके नेपाल से ऑर्डर लेना, इंदौर से और लुधियाना से ऑर्डर लेना और नेपाल से ऑर्डर गाड़ियाँ मंगवाना. I think that was really became, and the inspiration really was somewhere in the back. My muscle for hustle was getting developed, but I was doing that to increase my pocket money, and incrementally it helped our family increase our lifestyle. Anything added will get there.
That's amazing. And I don't know how many of you know STD booth. I used to call my parents when I was in college.
Everyone would probably know STD booths here, for sure.
Right now. How many entrepreneurs are in this room? Okay, a lot. Amazing. Yeah. And how many investors? Chalo, acha hi hai, kam hai. So I think, so I just want to read this because this was kind of hit me, and I think Nikita is here and we meet a lot of founders. So it always starts with एक business opportunity है, तेरे पास time है क्या? Yeah. I think I've heard this with many founders where, including my very dear friend Aditya is here. Wherever there's opportunity, this is how it starts, whether it is with classmates or whether it is with your father in this case. This question from my father on our weekly long distance call from Indore had sparked the muscle in me. I think that's what you spoke about. And then you took the textile business and you kind of became a trader. And, that is what was the start of your entrepreneurial journey. So I think somewhere parenting is very important, and that's why I wanted to highlight this. and I'm sure there are a lot of parents in this room, to prompt their child to do that. So, was there, just focusing on your dad for a moment, what did he do and how did he kind of inspire you? Did he inspire you? Obviously, clearly in the book you mentioned, but did you see him doing business? Was that kind of stuck in your mind? Why did, like a lot of people would take a job, right? So why did it hit you that I want to be entrepreneur?
Uh, so clearly, I know my father, my parents weren't entrepreneurs or businessmen, but I always saw them working very hard, and I think everyone probably sees. So somewhere, the only learning I have in that parenting was to not do over parenting. मैं आपको बताता हूँ, मेरी बुक मेरी मदर ने पढ़ी है तो उन्होंने कहा अरे इतना कुछ हुआ था तुम्हारे साथ, मेरे को तो पता ही नहीं. So the fact that I think they didn't know a lot and they never over parented me was, I think as a parent now I have a big learning. अभी हम because of communication, because of anything, मतलब I myself would ask my child was a single thing 5 times. Well, probably मेरे parents ने तो कभी मतलब, and probably if I would have said no to him, he would have not even called me again. Correct. So I think that is what I basically learned, that they let me be. They let me do things, whether I failed, passed, success, everything. उन्होंने सिर्फ इतना बोला, तूने जो करना है कर, खाना तो घर पे मिल ही जाएगा. And I think that was the big learning, and they let it be. And and from me, why I want to do business, I don't even know, Tej. मेरे को ऐसा लगता है कि कहीं ना कहीं, I think there is a curious mind by birth. And I think that curiosity to learn and be a constant learner, and somewhere, because we all come from middle class. मैं आपको एक example देता हूँ. मैं UK गया 2002 में 3 में, तो वहाँ पर मैं फलों की दुकान पे गया और मैंने कहा सुबह चलो फल खा लेते हैं कुछ, तो वहाँ केला भी था और मैंने एक नया तरीके का फ्रूट देखा. मेरे को नहीं पता उसको एवोकाडो बोलते हैं, लेकिन मैंने कहा ये कितने, मैं क्यूरियस था तो मैंने कहा ये कितने का है, तो आई थिंक उन्होंने कुछ 1.5-2 पाउंड बोला होगा, तो मैंने सोचा केला ही खा लेते हैं. तो द फैक्ट इज कि कहीं ना कहीं when you come from this from some kind of adversity, I would not say adversity in terms of some happening, but whether even if it's a middle class and you look up and say यार काश मेरे पास भी ये होता. मैं आपको बताता हूँ, मैं ये सोचता था कि अरे किसी दिन शायद मैं दिल्ली में ब्रेकफास्ट करूँगा, बॉम्बे में लंच करूँगा, बैंगलोर में डिनर करूँगा. एंड आई थिंक दोज ड्रीम्स कि एवोकाडो, और आज शायद हफ्ते में 2 बार ही हम एवोकाडो खाते हैं, तो आई थिंक कहीं ना कहीं वो एज अ मिडिल क्लास लाइफ स्टाइल, you have this hunger to succeed, to earn, to succeed, to do something. So I think, and it combined with the curious mind, I think that is where it kind of got interlocked.
Sure. And I think I just want to reflect on this one more thing in your book, which is escape velocity. And I think as a concept, I really like it. And I think somewhere we all get stuck in not hitting that escape velocity. So maybe you can talk about what does that mean?
Yeah. So the story here is, I started a business. That business succeeded or failed. That business succeeded to get me a job, but failed as a business. तो उसके बाद मैंने फिर जॉब करी. I worked in rediff.com for about 3 years. This is between 2000 and 2003, because in 2000 .com crash happened. My first business that I started from college hostel had no money and it got shut down. And then I worked in rediff.com with an entrepreneurial mindset. But then once an entrepreneur, always an entrepreneur. And तो हर रोज I used to kind of do an itch कि यार ये कर लेते हैं, ऐसा करते हैं, ये करते हैं. I used to discuss business ideas. And I remember we made a business plan to do digital advertising business. This is 2003. There were no digital advertising companies, but digital was growing a little bit after the .com crash. And I said कि यार यहाँ पर एक problem है. There is digital advertising is not really getting is solved, and there are no many agencies. Let me start a digital advertising agency. So I went to a friend of mine. I told him in the same office. I went to a friend of mine, very dear friend of mine. I'm very dear friend of mine even today. I told him, you know what? Hey, I wanting to do this business. ये रहा इसका business plan और ये सारा ये सब है. He said, yaar, it's a margin diminishing business. Why would you want to do that? Etc. etc. And I got very dejected. He said, rather, why don't you work for me? I said, चलो ठीक है, वो तो ठीक है, but मैं तो business idea लेकर आया था आपके पास. मैं उस room से बाहर जा रहा था. His colleague, who was a founder, and I said, he said, why did you came here? I said, you know, I wanted to discuss this business idea. तो इसे क्या हुआ? तो उसने बोला यार मेरे को उसने बोला कि यार ये बड़ा मार्जिन डिमिनिशिंग टाइप का बिजनेस है, इसमें ये प्रॉब्लम आएंगी. He said, मनीष, लाइफ में ध्यान रखना, there is something called escape velocity. Even if this idea is 50% right and you like it, go ahead and do it. Because what it will do, it will take you into a different orbit. It will make you an entrepreneur. It will get you to try. Because what you will be starting and what that business will be 5 years later will be completely different. And Tej, you and me would see a lot of entrepreneurs actually start a business, and what that business is 5 years, 10 years online is completely different business. Yeah. And he said, do not over-analyze a business. Do not over-analyze an opportunity. If you're finding heart in it, and if you think it is somewhere there, go ahead and do it. And that I remembered. And I said, this is the reason for me to start again. And by the way, the other good friend of mine was also right. It was a margin diminishing business. We exited that business after 6 years, etc., etc., etc. But for 6 years, we had a killing. We enjoyed that business so much. It became very big. So that is where it is. In fact, Aman, who is here, he sent me a message today morning. He said, a lot of times we get into this trap that the path we are on is the only path. But actually, you sit back and think that you should take escape velocities, whether it's a business idea, whether it's a passion that you want to do, whether it's a hobby you want to do. जब भी वो Google में बोलते हैं ना 80-20 ratio, 80% life keep on living like that, but the 20% keep trying your escape velocities, because you never know when you will get into that orbit.
Totally agree, 100%. And इस बीच में शादी कब हुई?
Actually शादी तो तब हो गई थी, and Tina is here. शादी तो तब हो गई थी जब मैं रीडिफ में काम करता था. तो इन्होंने सारा
आपने रीडिफ देख के शादी करी या आपने एंटरप्रेन्योर देख के शादी करी?
नहीं, तो इनके पेरेंट्स ने तो रीडिफ देख के शादी करी. लेकिन जब टीना आई तो मैं टीना को ले गया कैफे कॉफी डे सफदरजंग में. तो मैंने इनको बोला, टीना को मैंने कहा देखो यार ऐसा है कि ये जो तुमने देखा है ना, सब मैं जहाँ जॉब करता हूँ, मेरी इतनी सैलरी आती है, सब बंद होने वाली है, क्योंकि मैं तो एक्चुअली ये बिजनेस स्टार्ट करने वाला हूँ. तो मैंने एक टिश्यू पेपर लिया और उस टिश्यू पेपर में लिखा, समझाया कि मैं ऐसा क्यों कर रहा हूँ. एंड आई मीन नॉट that event, but she's been supportive throughout many events. But yeah, Tina said, हाँ ठीक है, कोई problem नहीं है. That's fine, go ahead.
Amazing. So there's another thing I want to read, and I want you to reflect on it, because I think you can't build businesses without having amazing team members who trust you. And this one stood out for me. So this is page number 60. It says, it was while I was on honeymoon in Australia that I received a call from Sandeep Singh, a young team member of Rediff. So, I mean, somewhere you inspired him, I guess. Sir, I have resigned, he said, over a crackle of a long distance. Where are you joining? You asked, right?
Yeah.
I am joining you, of course, he said. And to my surprise, abhi to meri salary ka bhi pata nahi. Right?
I said, yeah.
You said. Yeah. So he said, sir, dekhi jayegi. And I think dekhi jayegi is one very interesting Punjabi word. We use it a lot, where, when the path is unclear, you just go with it. So, like, how did you, and in throughout your journey, I've seen, like, Aman is here, a lot of your other colleagues are here. I think, Manish, I also respect you for that, the relationships that you have built. So, and I think the trust that you have created. So can you talk about that? Like, how did you, like, somebody to just say, I'm going to leave my job and join you? I mean, it takes a lot of courage, right? So how did you manage to do all that?
I mean, we should ask Sandeep how he managed to do that. But I somewhere read recently that in life there is logic and then there is magic, right? Logic is great, logic applies, but most of the time, actually magic also plays a lot. And that's where Dekhi Jayegi actually comes in. Logic तो हमने start भी नहीं किया था, and Sandeep left his job at rediff.com, he's getting paid and etc. And somewhere I think he inherently believed in me. मेरे को भी लगता क्यों believe, but he inherently believed in me and said कि मेरे को मज़ा आता है काम करके आपके साथ, and whatever you are starting, I will join that. And I think Tej, relationships, in my opinion, are responsibility. So संदीप ने तो बोल दिया देखी जाएगी, लेकिन संदीप की वो देखी जाने का रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी अब शिफ्ट हो गई मेरे ऊपर. So as a leader, I think it becomes very imperative and very important that, and I'm very thankful that the top 10 people in my first company, in some or the other way, we are still connected. Either we are invested in them, they are invested in us, or they are working with us, etc., in some other manner. And I'm so lucky on that aspect, because I think there are 4 things that are, I have created a 4P framework, are very important for the success. The 4P framework is, the first is parents. And the parents can be parents or mentors or advisors or your guardians, because they change your degree of thought process, and because wisdom is timeless. आज AI के ज़माने में भी wisdom that will probably come from a wise person is timeless. So any form of wisdom that you get from this P is number 1. Second P is actually partner. Whether it's your business partner or your life partner, becomes absolutely very important, because somewhere work and life are harmonious relationships. Yeah. If you will not be great personally, you will not have a great professional life. If you are not great professionally, which is your business partner, you will not have a great personal life. In somewhere it's harmonious, in somewhere. So that's the second P. The third P is people. I would have not been here. This book is actually not, I am the author of the book, but this book is about the 93 people who have been named here. Because some other way, they have actually played a very important role in my life. So people is very important. And we all, there is nothing called I, मैं कर लूँगा. It is we, and therefore that P. And lastly is prayers. Because you do everything of this, but if the God, serendipitously, whatever you may want to call, doesn't put you at the right time, right place with the right people, the magic doesn't happen. So this 4P framework actually worked, and to Sandeep's credit, he's now a successful entrepreneur, still connected to us, very, very dear friend. And we all, the top 10 people, we are almost like family friends. And that family continues to be very, very strong.
Great. And obviously one of them is Harish Bahl, right, who has been throughout with you in your journey almost. I mean, I wanted to ask you love your wife more or Harish more? But I guess, and I know Harish also for a long time. So when did you meet him? And I mean, this story I think won't be complete without mentioning him.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, the 2 Ps are, it's interesting when Harish and Tina meet, and I'm, 3 of us are there. So they both know me more better than I know myself. I actually met Harish serendipitously again. Sachin Bhatia, who was the co-founder of Make My Trip, very, very dear friend of ours. Those were the very simple days, and there are simple days even now, but those were days when I was looking to start something, and I said, I'm looking to start this digital advertising company. he said, there were no VCs, etc. at that point of time that you would go and raise capital from. And he says, there's another gentleman who works with us. He runs Studio Smile. Why don't you both meet? देख लेना खुद start होता है तो इकट्ठे कर लेना. That meeting, and then we dated for long. In fact, we didn't even think about business. I used to live in Paschim Vihar, he used to live in Lajpat Nagar. He said, यार थोड़ा main South Delhi में कहीं घर देखते हैं. So we started looking at house together. We started building we started gelling as friends. And yeah, that is how I met Harish. And we have gone through our ups and downs, honestly, a lot of ups and downs. And but I think somewhere, like in marriage, there is compatibility and cooperation needs to be created. In the same way, business partnership, you need to have a lot of mutual respect and a very inherent quality of saying, I am there for you when your chips are down. And I think that is and we are doing the right decision for the business. So I think, it's 20 years now. We've still doing business together.
By the way, 80% of startups either die because of partnership not working out or not raising enough money. And so does the VC funds, by the way.
Absolutely.
So we know many instances. So I think that is, you got lucky and, in both departments. I think so. I just want to switch gear in terms of, one more thing. As I was reading the book, actually, you were kind of Elon Musk of that time. You many businesses running, good Elon Musk. But so, because you had, you had the media company.
Yeah.
And then Let's Buy kind of came. And maybe again, because back to your relationships. But you were actually kind of doing multiple things, or multitasking as they call it. But these are not like multitasking chores, but running businesses. So the question really is, and if you can reflect on Let's Buy story, because that's very interesting. It was, I remember meeting, I think Nikita and I, we met Let's Buy together back in the day. I remember that was like #1 e-commerce store, and Aman is here as well as a founder. How did that happen? And how did you manage all that, doing all these different things together? And more on Let's Buy story as well.
So Let's Buy story won't get complete. And Aman is here. Aman is the co-founder of the company with Hitesh. And I partnered with them to build Let's Buy. So interesting story, very interesting. So of course, it didn't end as interestingly as we would have loved it to. We had a very good exit. We sold that company to Flipkart. But somewhere we were building a business which should have been a multi-billion-dollar business. We were solving a problem, a big problem. But a lot of instances happened with us, and we got caught in a big, I would say, situation that made us to sell our company. And that left us with a lot of learnings, a lot of experiences, a lot of tears. But the way Let's Buy happened was, Hitesh was the third team member in my first company, and kind of a founding team member. And then he was the founding team member of my second company. And then he left and he said, ये कुछ e-commerce होएगा इंडिया में. मैंने कहा, हितेश, अभी तो ads नहीं बिकते, e-commerce कहाँ से होने वाला है? This is like 2009, if I'm right. I'm in 2000, right? Yeah. And Hitesh, कोई नहीं. Hitesh said, okay, no worries, I will start. Hitesh, who was the main co-founder of Let's Buy, sold he had a home in, his family, his parents had a home in Kirtinagar. They only one plot his father owned. उनके ऊपर उन्होंने floors बनाए. He sold one floor, and that's how he started Let's Buy. And I said, Hitesh, अगर तू अपने family की एक ज़मीन का 1/3 हिस्सा, उस दिन तो उस समय 4 फ्लोर भी नहीं बनते थे, 3 ही बनते थे, 1/3 हिस्सा बेच के कंपनी स्टार्ट कर सकता है. So that is like a big belief in it. And I said, I want to partner with you. And we partnered. Aman became the co-founder of the company. And we started a journey where we were doing 10 orders a day. We started doing like 4,000-5,000 orders a day. Flipkart, and we were fighting cats and dogs. We were raising tens of millions of dollars, late double-digit millions of dollars of capital we were raising. And it became a time when our money, and this is like 2 years down the line, when a large funding was about to come and hit our bank, just in like 15 days. And I remember Tina and I were actually in a cruise in Singapore, and I get a call on 25th or 26th December from one of the VCs and says, you know what, China में फट गई है, तो लगता है कि e-commerce अभी बड़ी पेन आने वाला है, तो we want to like pause our funding. And this is stage, you know, when we were losing, every day we were losing 20-30 lakh rupees. And that business was never to be run if there was no capital. And this is when this happened, and you know, a lot of this is written in the book. But we rose up like this, and then this situation came. I remember Aman, me and Hitesh having a chat, ki, should we continue to run it? Do we want our vendors to actually stand up and ask for money if money doesn't come in? Or do we want to have a respectful exit for our employees, for our vendors, for everyone? And I think that's when we took a very tough call, with actually tears in our eyes, to exit our company to our competitor. And it is very painful, very, very painful when you actually do that.
I totally can understand it. A lot of people go through, that struggle. But Manish, just to reflect on that, do you want to talk about relationship with VCs, and has your views changed? There's a lot of audience here who would say, let's raise money. And there are a lot of, and obviously VCs come with their own baggage, agenda, etc. How do you think about VCs?
Tej, investors are a very important aspect of our industry. I mean, without investors, we can't build businesses. All the VCs that I've mentioned and they're friends, right? But we went through a very painful journey at that point of time. We had hard feeling. We had a lot of bad feelings at that point of time. Maybe we would have been wrong we would have been wrong. Maybe they would have been wrong. But I think what I have learned is that for a VC or an investor, you are one line item in the whole Excel sheet. And for them, it's easier to actually press the right click and say cut. But for an entrepreneur, he eats, sleeps, breathes. He's emotionally, his family, everyone is so invested in that business. उसके लिए सिर्फ एक है वो चीज़. तो इसलिए I think what I really want to tell all the entrepreneurs or anyone who is wanting to do business, कि पैसे लगाने वाले की responsibility आपको पैसे देने की है, आपको suggestion देने की है, लेकिन business आपका है, मालिक आप हो, चलानी आपकी responsibility है. And two big learnings: smaller the board, better the success of the company. Because decision-making paralysis hits a lot of companies bad. Second, if your gut doesn't say that you don't have to go with that VC or investor, don't go with him or her. Because somewhere your gut says it right. We did that mistake. And फाउंडर के ऊपर तो बड़े सारे रेफरेंस चेक होते हैं, उसके मामा चाचा ताऊ सबके ऊपर रेफरेंस चेक होते हैं. हम इन्वेस्टर पे क्यों नहीं करते ये रेफरेंस चेक?
आजकल होते हैं वैसे, बट ठीक.
हाँ, बट सिचुएशन अलग होती है, डिपेंड करता है. मतलब मैं अर्ली स्टेज की बात कर रहा हूँ, सीरीज ए की बात कर रहा हूँ, बिकॉज वी आर नॉट इन दैट लग्जरी ऑफ doing that in reference checks. But one question that everyone should ask their investor for their reference check to another founder: was he or she with you when your chips were down? In terms of not capital, but behavior. क्योंकि maybe the fund may not be able to give that capital. उसकी उसकी considerations में नहीं आता होगा, उनकी problems हैं, लेकिन in behavior was the investor with you when the chips were down? And I think these things were clearly learnings out of our Let's Buy episode, that smaller the boat, the better it is. Do reference checks. At least ask this question. And lastly, if your gut says कि partnership सही नहीं हो रही ना, तो नहीं करनी चाहिए. And lastly, धंधा आपका है, business आपका है, decision आपने लेने हैं, सही या गलत.
Very nice. All the investors, please take a note. But good, very passionate, by the way, when you were talking about it. So then, on the other hand, you had SVG, right? And there was Network 18 story in the book where you found many logos and you kind of started accumulating assets under SVG, which did that have investors, or was it all your?
It had one investor. Yeah.
One investor. So it was less of a investor burden, so to say. So as the SVG, because after you kind of moved full time into SVG, and there was another WPP, So, but like lot of what the story I found, Manish, was very interesting, was that you made money from that WPP acquisition, right? And you still continued. You wanted to build something bigger. Obviously, you were younger. Now also you're young, but then you were younger. So what kept you going? Because I've seen there are two kind of people, like one who make some money and they say, "Yaar, ho gaya," and 30 crore, 40 crore, whatever number is enough in India, right? You can live happily. But you kept pushing yourself on the FC. Actually, your I would say the ambition became bigger. So why did that happen?
My question is, why not, actually? You have been gifted to make a change. Then, why not? I actually, Tejinder, my very dear friend, is here, and I have this chat with him every time. That when God has actually blessed you to become मतलब आपको देखिए funnel में से आप कितने 0.1% आदमी हो जो कि एक entrepreneur बन गया, कुछ success देख ली, कुछ सीख गया, कुछ हो गया. Then it is actually the other way around. It is your responsibility to solve more problems. It is your responsibility to impact a lot more. It is your response. So one, maybe it's personally for me, it is again the curious mind that I love learning. I think I am doing business as passion to learn. Like in this whole AI thing right now, I'm actually learning. I love learning, and but at the same point of time, I also see that in some way, it's not about wealth. It is mostly about impact. It is about impact. It is about learning. It is about curiosity. And I think I'm just trying to fulfill my hunger of these three things. Money, of course, is very important. It is a byproduct of this success that you get, and it is very important. पैसा आने के बाद ही आदमी बोलता है कि यार भाई money is not everything. But वो तभी होता है जब पैसे आ जाते हैं. लेकिन पैसे आने नहीं आते ना तो money is everything. तो लेकिन हाँ, एक स्टेज के बाद आने के बाद I think tables turn, and then you do things which then you are satisfying your hunger of curiosity, learning, and more impact. Understood. So that keeps me going.
And then also SVG, you and Harish wanted to take public.
Yeah.
And a lot of, the good thing is a lot of the new age founders are getting aware of, taking companies public now. But back then it was still, for a startup, let's say, kind of not heard of. And you did a lot of banker meetings. And then eventual decision was that you sold the company, right? And Weber and my dear friend Vivek Bhargav was involved in that. But anyway, so why the change of thought, and why not go, IPO? What stopped you? Because there are other companies which have become $1 billion, almost in the same arena. What was the thought process?
So in hindsight, Tej, it's kind of a mistake. and this is a learning that I write in my book, write it more elaborately. But I think it's somewhere मेरे को लगा कि इंडिया में आईपीओ करना था, आईपीओ रेडी थे हम लोग, सब कुछ हो रहा था. And when this offer came to buy our company, I still remember that in my outhouse we were having this leadership meeting, and I said, you know what, there is this offer to exit, or let's do an IPO. So at least my leadership and my partner said, IPO भी करेंगे तो same price आ जाएगा, exit कर रहे हैं अभी, सारा cash अभी आ रहा है, तो exit ही कर लेते हैं. तो उस समय तो बहुत अच्छा लग रहा था. लेकिन आपको बताऊं कि मेरी लर्निंग इसमें ये रही कि कहीं ना हमारी entrepreneurial fatigue आ गई थी. Entrepreneurial journey is very tough, is painful, is tough, is so much of hard work. I'm not saying it's not there, but it is very mentally strenuous, etc. So कहीं ना कहीं मैंने देखा कि मेरे को अब रियलाइज हो रहा है कि हमारे में कहीं एक entrepreneurial fatigue आ गया था, और जिसकी वजह से हमने we took the shorter route कि let's exit. If we would have probably held on to that for some more time, today probably we would have been a $1 billion company. If we would have done an IPO, etc., etc. Again, no regrets in hindsight, but the bigger learning there is कि जब भी आपको exit की offer आए ना, मैंने इसमें एक framework बना के दिया है, मेरी learnings तो evolve होती रही, but एक framework में ये है कि जब आदमी गाड़ी चलाता है ना, तो ड्राइवर और पैसेंजर थकते हैं, गाड़ी नहीं थकती. गाड़ी के इंजन को क्या प्रॉब्लम है? और जब आप एग्जिट करते हो ना, आप अपनी थकान की वजह से वो गाड़ी भी बेच देते हो. सो व्हाट यू मिस एक्चुअली इज सेलिंग दैट प्लेटफॉर्म, that you have actually built over a period of time, and that platform is a combination of your brand, team, that compounding is happening on everything. Relationships with vendors, smallest things that you don't realize, you take it for granted, but that's the power of that car, that vehicle, that platform. और अपनी थकान की वजह से शायद हम लोगों ने वो गाड़ी भी साथ में बेच दी.
So that's a very good point, Manish. So I think, do you think, and you were at it for what, 10 years at that point?
Yeah.
10, 12. So you think a lot of founders who have created, like you said, good gaadi and a platform, should actually think of, do you think you would have gotten a more professional CEO to run it?
Yeah.
Would have been then your fatigue will not have impacted that. Could that have been done, or how do people should think about that?
Yeah, I think one of the thing is, maybe it could be replace people who are fatigued, give them a break. जैसे हम ढाबे पे रुक जाते हैं बीच में, रुक गए, उसको break दे दी. One of the things is celebrate more often. Celebrate on smaller things. What happens typically when you grow, you want to only celebrate on bigger things. I think that becomes a very, celebrating with the team on smaller things should something that we've learned was a mistake. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I should have actually replaced people. Said कि आपकी equity पड़ी हुई है, चिंता ना करो equity की. लेकिन maybe this needs to go further. Maybe you need to get replaced. It could be myself. So I think that is something that I've learned.
Yeah, I mean, good example of that. Travis got replaced in Uber, for example.
The company runs.
Yeah, Eric Schmitz came in Google, left. A lot of other people have come. Yeah. But see, the good thing of exit is also money, like you said. So nothing wrong. And there's one line which again stuck me, and I think every entrepreneur, a good entrepreneur, wants to do that. Is that when a peon of your company got 5 lakh rupees, right? And you said I was in for a surprise myself, right? In the IPO round, instead we took the money, and as a result, a lot of people were paid, and including that peon which got 5 lakh. So how did you? Well, I'm sure there's a lot of we all want to kind of give back. Yeah. So what was your experience when people got the money? I mean, what was the story after that? People build houses. What happened? I mean, the success part of it.
Yeah. I remember Deep Kalra telling me, Manish, you will be more happier not buying your own home, but when your team member buys a home, you'll be more happier. And I never, he's much more wiser than I am. So I never understood that concept. But later I understood that concept. People bought their homes. People became, money, when you make enough money, it's one less worry solved. One less worry behind, right, in your life. So my core team members, all the people who were involved, for all of them, it was one less worry in life. Uh, and surprisingly, I remember we gave this money. A peon doesn't even expect. Company big gayi, chali gayi, kahin aur koi aur malik aa gaya, kuch aur. When we gave this check to him, and some people made millions, but that 5 lakh rupee that he made, he had tears in his eyes. You know what he said? कि सर आज मेरे सारे लोन खत्म हो जाएंगे. And that became the most satisfying moment of my life. And yeah, these are small impacts stage that you as entrepreneur can fulfill. And while we are no one, we just become a medium, but these are very, very satisfying moments.
Oh, great, thank you, Manish. So the other thing, when people start and you have done it again and again and again, right? There are a lot of doubts. There are a lot of pressure points from family, from otherwise. So what's your, what do you want to tell to the founders, and especially your family? They sometimes, your case was very supportive, but they pulled you down ki chhodna chal raha hai. So, how do you get out of that?
Honestly, Tej, I don't have an answer for that, a straight answer for that, but I can tell you my instances. I got a job at Google. When I was 26-year-old, I started a business. I got a job at Google. I was 26-year-old with a very, very fat package. Probably at that point of time, it was maybe 4 years of salary that my father used to get. When he called, and I was ready to join, and I had started my business. And he called me and he said, मनीष, लोग नौकरी के बाद बिजनेस करते हैं, तूने बिजनेस स्टार्ट कर लिया है, अगर 2 साल दे दे इसे, कैपेबिलिटी होएगी तो तेरे को नौकरी तो वापस मिल जानी है. I mean, those kind of things. I remember I said, I was discussing with my wife Tina. I said कि यार ये सैलरी आएगी ना तो इससे एंडेवर खरीदेंगे. And this is like, these are days 2003, 4. And she said, कोई endeavor की ज़रूरत नहीं है, जो decision सही है वो लेना. Whatever, but I'm just saying these are the moments when your family becomes very supportive. Now I can't, I don't know why this support happened or why is that I was lucky to do that. But I think in some other fashion, whether it is family, like I said, the P is family, of course, is parents, but that P in a lot of ways in my life has also been my mentors and advisors who I don't even know. They just met me serendipitously, gave me an advice, and I had the only ability I had was that I listened, I absorbed, I experimented, and that became true. So family can actually come in many forms. These advices, these changes, they can actually come in many forms. And therefore, I believe that relationships drive the world. People do a lot of networking, but networking is considered as a bad word. But I think if you do build non-transactional relationships that are more thick and more deep, and being the only nature of saying I will help regardless. If somebody needs help, that actually karma comes back to you in some other way. I do not know, but I think serendipitously, I talk about a framework called DARE, D-A-R-E, which basically means dream very big, action every day relentlessly, relationships drive the world, and the last E, which is the edge, that actually comes from blessings and serendipity, which makes you sit at the right time, right place. So our job is to dare, but the E comes from somewhere above.
Awesome. I'm going to ask you last question and then we'll open it up. So what were so far, and I know, by the way, we didn't cover, but you're working on you want to talk about the venture studio and what you're doing? But what were your two biggest so far? You know, the highest point in life, and what were two regrets, if you want to call it regrets or low point, whatever you want to, like, which if you look back and you see, you know, yeah.
I mean, no regrets, honestly. मेरे को लगता है कि again spiritually, if you think about why not regret, because you never know what was the reason that thing happened, and maybe you only realize it after 3, 4, 5, 7, 10 years that you know, why did that happen. It was a journey that somebody was carving it out for you. So no regrets, but a lot of learnings, Tej. So I would say low points of my life. Low points of my life was, you know, one of the Let's Buy exit was, you know, a low point of my life. And the second actually low point of my life was when Kabaddi Bazaar got shut down, because I was neither in a job, neither I had a business. And I did Kabaddi Bazaar to get a job, and there's a whole story around it. I did get a job, but Kabaddi Bazaar was growing great. And you know, I still remember मैं ओखला इंडस्ट्रियल एरिया में था, और उस दिन मेरे को समझ नहीं आया तो कुछ नहीं, मैं 10-15 किलोमीटर पैदल ही चल दिया, क्योंकि समझ ही नहीं आया क्या हो रहा है लाइफ में. इधर से कंपनी बंद हो गई, उधर से जॉब चली गई. एंड सो दोज वर टू लो पॉइंट्स ऑफ माई लाइफ. द हाइएस्ट पॉइंट of course in my life has been our first exit, which was a partner, which was, we call it the joint venture with WPP. We don't call it exit because exit means that you're going out of your entrepreneurial mindset. So that really felt that, you know, you've done, there is some third party validation of what you have done. The second high point, of course, is, you know, when I felt the impact of how success of a company can impact a very large amount of people and families. I mean, that impact is something that was really, really high, very touching to me in my life.
Amazing, great. I'll just open up for questions now.
I mean, thank you very much for your patience. We kept talking, but I don't know what. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hi, Manish. Good evening. Understanding your journey of 25 years, I am an investor. So, after this 25 of journey, you have so many up and downs. So, if you're going to start your new startup, how will I have a confidence to invest in your company? That one thing, that you didn't went for IPO in your some venture. Like if I am working in your company, so you will give me some salary and some papers, and I will be looking that this company will go for the IPO. So I will get the good price of my paper as well as my salary. So how do you suggest me, and how will you explain your investor to invest in new companies? That is my question.
आप इन्वेस्टर पिच मांग रहे हो मेरे से आप. सर, आई थिंक पहली बात तो I think it's a investor, at least in the stage that I would go and ask for investment. उस समय बहुत ही belief वाली story होती है. There is a lot of belief that the investor needs to have in my knowledge, or my passion, or my capability, or my team's capability to execute the dream that I have painted. And the fact that I will do it honestly and ethically. उसके बाद सर उस इन्वेस्टर के 0 बने या 100x हुए, मैं और मेरी टीम मेहनत करेगी उस तरफ जाने की, बट वो बने ना बने तो मेरे को भी नहीं पता. मतलब लेकिन मैं इतना कह सकता हूँ, आपका तो सिर्फ पैसा लग रहा है, मेरा समय लग रहा है, और समय पैसे से ज़्यादा कीमती है. और मैं अपनी पूरी श्रद्धा से काम करूँगा, मेरी टीम पूरी श्रद्धा से काम करेगी. हमारा पैशन है उस काम पे करने का. अगर आपको विश्वास है कि हमसे हो जाएगा तो लगाइए, नहीं है तो मत लगाइए. Thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for such a wonderful, insightful evening. It's almost like as if I'm watching a movie, and Manish, you are the hero. Nothing can go wrong. आप हो संभल ही जाएगा. I've been on that trip since last 45 minutes. But over there, there were a couple of points where I would want to hear more. One, the Flipkart Let's Buy acquisition that happened. You said like, and please excuse my illiteracy on that aspect as to how did that happen, how much money was being made, all of those. But you see, you said like there was a competition, clear-cut competition. You were fighting for the market share, and the chips were down. I'm sure Flipkart would also know it. So how do you put a face, still make money when the situation is like that? Did you make money, like enough of that, or did that was just about like sailing through the situation? One, and the second thing about the car example that you said, that was wonderful. Over there, I would agree. It's great that okay, गाड़ी नहीं थकती है. However, how do you make that decision कि अब गाड़ी इतनी पुरानी हो गई है कि इसे ही बेचना ठीक है? So making that decision in the moment, these are the two things that I would like you to share more on. Thank you.
Honestly, great questions. And second one, के लिए honestly, I've put up a framework and a full matrix about, at least from my opinion, when to exit and when not to exit. क्योंकि मैंने exit करके भी गलती करी है और exit का सही decision लेके भी, मतलब, so I have taken good decisions to exit and I have taken bad decisions to exit. Therefore, I could write that framework to say, when did I make mistake and why did I make mistake and when. So I think there's a framework. I'm not just trying to sell you the book, but I'm just trying to say, but I'm just trying to say that it's a very intense question. It's a very deep question, because there is a time when you have to think कि वो गाड़ी भी पुरानी हो गई, उसको कब exit करना सही है. One of the factors really is when you don't enjoy driving that car is when you should definitely exit, because आपका मन कहीं और आ गया है, अगर किसी और गाड़ी में आ गया है, कोई और आपको मजा नहीं आ रहा है गाड़ी चलाने में, वो पहले, इससे पहले कि गाड़ी बूढ़ी हो, आप डिसाइड कर लो एज अ ड्राइवर कि यार अब समय आ गया है इसका, बिकॉज जिस दिन बूढ़ी होगी तो कोई खरीदेगा भी नहीं. On the first question, it was a very profitable exit. From an exit standpoint, if you say, we would have been today. We had. I mean, we were probably offered, if I'm not wrong, to buy Flipkart shares at that point of time, and we said, you know what, we are happy with our cash and all that kind of. So it was a profitable exit, but I think at that point of time when our chips were really, really down, one of the investor helped us to get this deal done. Second, we were in a competitive category to Flipkart. So Flipkart was selling books at that point of time, and and we were selling electronics. So for them, it was like either getting that capability into Flipkart. So it was really a win-win situation for them, and they bought us at probably 1/10 of their valuation, if I'm not wrong, the numbers, whatever. I don't want to quote numbers here, but at that number, because they raised money at, if I'm right, at that point of time, $700-800 million or something like that, a humongous number. Became much bigger from that. But the reason why they bought, or the reason why we could still stand and they could see interest in us, is because of the fact that we were in the complementary category, and we were really big in that category. We were the only one who sold electronics well in e-commerce, and we were probably the first ones to do that at scale. That was the reason. So,
one option is that you can build a new business in a new situation where the actual market is yet to grow to the level which will attract everybody. The second option is that let others try and find out the best way to run a business, and then you jump into it and do it much better and much faster. Which one of the two will you choose?
I will choose the second one. Market creation is very tough, sir. And maybe, I am an entrepreneur like that. So maybe there are entrepreneurs who believe that they love market creation. I generally would say, थोड़ा बहुत अगर हो गया है, कुछ थोड़ा सा PMF आ गया है, किसी और ने कर दिया है, कहीं ना कहीं reference point है, कुछ है, then I would rather enter in. Because market creation takes a lot of capital, sustenance, energy, a lot of things. But I mean, I salute those entrepreneurs who actually create the market, because those are really the ones with guts of steel. Yeah.
Takes a lot of money also.
Yeah, takes a lot of money. Yeah. Sir. Hi.
Early stage AI startup. And my question is, you described the initial team building process where a former person who had worked with you approached you based on your experience with him, and serendipity played a role in how that team got started, right? In the case when that does not happen, you have somebody, like in my case, there is somebody who did a sabbatical with me, exceptional person, totally co-founder material, but she got a job at NVIDIA. And now the question is, how much a startup with infinite amount of risk ahead of it, very early stage, overselling it seemed like, I shouldn't be doing it. She was a very young, very early career employee and very excited about her job. And that's the point where, convincing somebody at that point that, hey, take this risk. How do you do it? And the balance between perhaps, this may not work out and she has a job that, she's very excited about.
I mean, I honestly don't have a perfect answer for this. At least in the first 5-10 people, members, honestly, there's a lot of selling required. It's easy said than done, but you have to sell your dreams. And there is no other way out. You have to sell your dream to your family, your first few team members, your investors. Keep selling it to yourself. Because there are a lot of times when says, "ये कहाँ फंस गए यार?" कि नहीं आएगा, एक दिन दिखेगा, एक दिन there'll be light at the end of the tunnel. So I think so that selling of dreams is there, but I have actually over-optimized on doing a lot of hiring through reference checks. So either it is someone known, or someone you've worked with, your colleague, or someone, solid reference checks. And then it's dream selling, sir.
I just want to add that selling never stops, right? You have to either, till you sell the company, you
Yeah.
have to keep selling it.
Yeah, and then you have to build another one and then start selling another one. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, sure.
Thanks for a great discussion. Really, as an up-and-coming new age entrepreneur, it's great to get inspiration. So thank you for a great session. Yeah, my question was that, like you said, sometimes life works out well. You find the right people and co-founder, at the right time as well. So how do you, when you were trying to start off with Let's Buy, right? How did you land upon electronics was one, and of course the second part was that you said you have a framework for identifying when the car, the engine needs to be changed. You can don't get rid of the car, but an entrepreneur's aim is to solve a problem, like you said, right? That's the key. That's how you make an impact. Money will come after that. So do you also now have a framework of how do you identify the next key problems to solve? Like, how do you have a framework now built for that? Would love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, actually, electronics was because Hitesh's right to win was there. But the framework is that if you can probably find something that coincides between your right to win, possible tailwinds, potential tailwinds, right? That you are not very early and not very late. And I used to only do it this way, But I've added another framework क्योंकि वो as you grow and is large market, very very large market. Or even if you haven't put that at the starting, try to continue to pivot your business towards a larger market. Because these three things are is probably the framework that I would optimize on. कि अगर बैटिंग करनी आती है तो क्यों विकेट कीपिंग करनी, बैटिंग करते रहो बढ़िया. और तो बैटिंग के बिजनेस में जहाँ पर tailwinds हैं and you have a large market there. So these are the three I would say put this. Yeah, maybe are you getting bored? Then we can take it if we can actually take these questions offline.
Any last question? Okay, I think
Yeah,
she is eager to ask.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask about multitasking, like whether there was a time when you were working on 2 or 3 startups at a time, and if you were doing that, how were you managing it? Because at times, like, we get stuck in a situation where we want to do so much, and we don't know really where to start from and whether to say no to the other opportunities or should we dive in.
Yeah. No, we were multitasking quite a bit. And multitasking की भी एक learning है. Do you do multitask? Do you do multitask a lot of tasks at different times? Or do you do multitask as that many tasks at the same point of time? I'm actually very bad at it because I do multitasks at the same point of time. I keep getting scolding from my wife because of that. But कि मेरे से बात कर रहे हो या newspaper पढ़ रहे हो? But there are, but it's better to do multitasks at different tasks at different point of time. But when you're doing one task, do it well. But I think we could do it only because we had great team, and there were team leaders who were taking care of that business P&L individually as a business head or a CEO or a founder or a co-founder. So that is the reason why we were able to kind of do that. Otherwise you can't. एक बनाने के लिए आपको 150% डालना पड़ता है, तो 4 तो आप वैसे नहीं बना सकते. तो हर बारी बनाने के लिए मतलब हमारा, and we were very lucky where we could have either a co-founder or a teammate who were running that as a business head. So that was it.
Super.
I'll take that offline maybe.
Okay, I think Manish will be here. So thank you so much. Amazing.
Thank you.
No, thank you as always. Thank you.